Good morning, everybody. Are you fired up? But are you ready? All right. What a year a difference makes. I think our accomplishments over the past year have been just remarkable. A little over a year ago, we were defending the rights of one of our science members to sing a protest song against the Harper government. We were also advocating a change in federal government, from one that had a very clear anti-union, anti-collective bargaining agenda to one that, at the very least, would meet us halfway and restore a level playing field to collective bargaining. Today, we've had a special visit by the minister responsible for federal bargaining, the Honorable Scott Bryson, who, by the way, bears absolutely no resemblance to the previous Treasury Board President, Tony Clement. As you all were happy to enjoy, we've been treated to a rousing union song by our favorite songwriter-scientist, Tony Turner. So thank you, Tony. Tony was your everyday federal scientist until the Harper government decided to step on his charter rights, turning him into an activist and a celebrity. So thanks, Harper. Now, I know the current round of bargaining isn't over for most of us and that significant differences still remain. But I think it's worth taking a few minutes to look at how far we've actually come in a relatively short period of time. We started this round of bargaining 2 years ago. At that time, sick leave was under attack. Defined benefit pensions were going to be next on the chopping block. There was virtually no hope for progress on any of our priorities. Il y a un peu plus d'un an, il était très difficile de deviner qui gagnerait les élections fédérales. Et Stephen Harper risquait vraiment d'être réélu pour supprimer encore plus d'emplois et de services publics et continuer d'adopter des politiques non fondées sur des données objectives, de museler les scientifiques et de cibler encore plus les syndicats. Nous avons pris une décision stratégique et des mesures essentielles pour que cette ronde de négociations se termine après les élections. Nous avons mis tout notre cœur et toute notre énergie dans ces élections pour influencer le programme électoral et amener nos membres à voter pour le changement. Within hours of being sworn in, the Trudeau government announced that the mandatory long-form census form would be reinstated and that scientists were once again free to speak directly to media and the public. These, of course, were demands we had made with repeated urgency in the lead up to and during the federal election. These were followed early in the new year by announcements that anti-union bills C-377 and C-525 would, in the coming months, be repealed, and that the new government would seek to establish a more respectful relations with federal bargaining agents and public servants generally by repealing the old and very offensive Bill C-4. Of course, saying what one intends to do and doing them aren't the same thing, which is why we continue to insist that reversing Harper-era restrictions on collective bargaining, in particular restoring our right to strike and seek arbitration, was an essential precondition to free and fair collective bargaining. In May, the new government announced plans to repeal those Harper-era measures as well. These are extremely important advances and commitments over the previous year and the previous government. And they attest to the real value of our continued strategy to engage on a wide range of issues, both at and beyond the bargaining table. Par exemple, l'hiver dernier, nous avons eu beaucoup de succès avec notre journée de lobbying auprès des députés sur la colline du Parlement. Nous soutenions que le gouvernement devrait profiter de son premier budget pour commencer à réinvestir sérieusement dans l'Agence du revenu du Canada et pour réduire sa dépendance excessive à la sous-traitance. Finalement, le budget de 2016 prévoyait l'embauche de nombreux scientifiques au ministère des Pêches et des Océans, des réinvestissements majeurs dans l'Agence du revenu du Canada et des économies de 170 millions de dollars par la réduction du recours à la sous-traitance. Même si c'est un bon départ, il nous reste encore beaucoup de travail à faire. comme protéger nos congés de maladie et obtenir une augmentation salariale équitable à nos membres à la table de négociation. The federal government may have changed, but in some ways, its bargaining position didn't. That means that our efforts to educate and engage our members and the public are as important as ever. While the Trudeau government is far preferable to the previous Harper government, its efforts to deliver on its campaign promises of last year ultimately depend on ensuring a strong and engaged federal public service. I think that's what Minister Bryson said as well. That must include reaching fair collective agreements, and soon. Friends, we want a deal by the end of this year. We've put the politicians on notice that we're going to push for that deadline with the same determination that we showed during the last election. In early June, following months of government delays in bargaining, we launched a noisy public awareness campaign with a well-attended, enthusiastic rally in downtown Ottawa. In the words of the signs of our members that they carried, we said that we were ready to bargain, ready to protect sick leave, to increase salaries and to preserve scientific integrity, ready to promote tax fairness, and readier than ever to stop outsourcing. In June, we also launched a major report to educate government and the public on how widespread over-reliance on outsourcing is leaving the public service programmed to fail. We took the same approach we had taken to building our campaign for scientific integrity. That is, generate true facts and evidence so that we can present a credible case to influence the decision makers. Some of you will have already seen the short video on outsourcing we produced to educate the public on this issue. You'll also have an opportunity to see it tomorrow when we hold our panel on precarious work in the public service. Of course, one of the most glaring examples of how federal government has been programmed to fail in recent years was the purchase and rollout of the new Phoenix pay system. Boo. The Phoenix pay system is an off-the-shelf product that has hurt the pay of about 1/4 of all federal employees, some so severely that they've been unable to make ends meet. They've had to borrow from their friends or their family. They've even been forced to look for work outside of the public service just to get by. Failure to pay people fairly, accurately, and on time is inexcusable, anywhere, at any time. But when it's the federal government that fails to do so, it sends the very worst message possible. The government knows it, the public knows it, and our members know it. It cannot be tolerated, it cannot be excused, and the causes behind the problem must be examined, fixed, and never repeated. We've been forceful with the government on the need for PIPS to be a part of the solution going forward. Our members were not involved in creating this mess, but we are ready and able to help clean it up. Our primary job has been to ensure that our members are properly compensated for lost pay and out-of-pocket expenses due to the Phoenix fiasco. We've provided direct assistance to hundreds of our members hurt by Phoenix, and we've worked closely with the government to expedite urgent cases. And we've advocated ways the government should act immediately to alleviate our members' financial hardship. We've even extended loans to members in need and offered guidance to students facing their own problems with Phoenix. We've also taken every opportunity over the past year to remind the government that adequate investment upfront in federal employees and services is vital to ensuring that such fundamental system failures do not occur in the future, either to our members or to the general public. It's a message that I've repeated in my meetings over the past year, whether with Treasury Board President Scott Bryson, Minister of Public Services and Procurement Judy Foote, or more recently, the Chief Information Officer of the Government of Canada, John Messina. The ongoing delays, cost overruns, and security problems that have plagued the outsourced consolidation of government email systems and the development of the government's new Canada.ca website, to say nothing of the government's plans to now move information and services to a private IT cloud provider. This makes investing in government services and reducing outsource an issue of national urgency. Government should never be over-reliant on private companies such as Bell or IBM or Microsoft for the provision of fundamental services. Real investments in public employees and public services must be made if the government, our members, and ultimately the public are to make genuine progress. Un domaine où nous sommes heureux de voir du progrès cette année est celui de l'équité salariale. Même si l'échéancier du gouvernement a quelque peu refroidi notre enthousiasme, le mémoire que nous avons présenté au printemps au comité spécial sur l'équité salariale de la Chambre des communes soulignait le vieux problème de l'écart salarial entre hommes et femmes et la nécessité d'avoir finalement un secteur de la main-d'œuvre juste et fonctionnel. Nous étions donc ravis cet automne quand le gouvernement a promis d'adopter une loi à cet égard, mais en même temps déçu d'apprendre qu'il ne le ferait que d'ici la fin de 2018. L'équité salariale est l'une des questions juridiques les plus étudiées au Canada. La procrastination du gouvernement à cet égard conforme à elle seule le vieux dicton selon lequel différer la justice, c'est la refuser. Nous continuerons donc à chercher des occasions d'intervenir à ce sujet. En ce qui concerne les pensions, nous continuons à lutter sur plusieurs fronts. Nous appuyons nos membres du Nouveau-Brunswick dans leur contestation de la décision du gouvernement provincial de remplacer leur régime de pension à prestations déterminées par un régime de retraite à risque partagé. À Chalk River, nous préparons une campagne pour que nos membres conservent leurs dispositions sur les pensions qui sont compromises par un partenariat avec le secteur privé. I also want to recognize the particular contributions of a few over the past year. For his work championing diversity and employment equity and making PIPS a leader in the public sector on this issue, Wahid Khan. For reminding us, and me personally, always, of the pride CSs have in their work and the fact that our CSs built the IT infrastructure that all public servants and Canadians rely on, Robert Tellier. For their incredible leadership and innovation in advancing science issues, Robert MacDonald, Susan O'Donnell, and Jean Berube. For their groundbreaking work in bringing forward the issue of domestic violence at the bargaining table, Ray Paquette and the AV Group. For advocating for our nurses who have been so hard hit by Phoenix, Jeanette Tardif. And for his exceptional work on advancing consultation at the Institute, Craig Bradley. I also want to thank Ian Gallant and the members of the Quebec Youth Initiative for showing us the future of our union. And of course, I need to thank all of our bargaining teams for their incredible hard work and solidarity during this prolonged and challenging round of bargaining. And lastly, the PIPS Board of Directors for their collective work on advancing the Institute's strategic objectives this year. L'année qui se termine marque un point tournant pour l'Institut et je suis sûre qu'en continuant à exercer des pressions, nous ferons d'importants progrès à la table de négociation avant la fin de l'année. Et avec un peu de chance, nous aurons une entente. Le pacte de solidarité entre agents négociateurs fédéraux sur le congé de maladie nous a rendus plus forts dans une période très difficile. Et la solidarité entre les groupes de l'Institut est avérée tout aussi essentielle et stratégique. J'encourage vivement tous les membres à continuer à participer aux activités de négociation et à porter leurs macarons prêts. Comme si nous avions encore besoin de preuves, tout cela prouve que nous sommes bien mieux ensemble. Vous saviez que je dirais au moins une fois dans mon discours, n'est-ce pas? This is a pivotal time for us. With a new federal government in place, we have the opportunity to repair the damage of the Harper years, to turn back despair, to renew hope, and show real leadership in defending professionalism in the public service. Whether it's the legacy of across-the-board cuts to jobs and programs, the muzzling of scientists, poorly planned restructuring at the Canada Revenue Agency, or over-reliance on outsourcing that led to the catastrophic failures of the Phoenix pay system and email consolidation, federal government efforts to fix the public service and improve services for Canadians are long overdue for a reset. It's time to begin programming for success. And friends, I would argue that those efforts begin not with the government, but with us. They begin with our own agenda, and they begin today. So here are 5 agenda items for real change that I think we owe it to ourselves and all Canadians to ensure are on the government's agenda as well. Number 1, improve collective bargaining. As we know, collective bargaining took a serious hit from an alphabet soup of government bills like C4, C377, and C525. The last government tried to rewrite the rules on everything from union finances and membership to the right to strike and seek arbitration. While the Trudeau government has already sought to repeal some of these Harper-era measures, there's no denying that their introduction slowed bargaining and taught us and other federal bargaining agents a hard lesson in the importance of being prepared to counter similar assaults next time. Retooling union efforts to better preserve and promote effective collective bargaining, regardless of the government in power, is essential. We must then ensure the previous government's anti-labor laws are repealed. We must complete a successful round of bargaining by the end of 2016. And if I say it enough times, it'll be true, right? And we need to invest in efforts to promote union rights and strengthen effective collective bargaining for the next round. Number 2, we need to stop outsourcing. Big time. Outsourcing is now widely acknowledged to be a serious problem amongst PIPS members in the federal government. According to surveys conducted last year, 87% of PIPS respondents reported that the number of contractors working in their team or work unit remained the same or actually increased over the previous 3 years. Remember that during that same period of time, approximately 3,000 professional permanent government jobs disappeared. In many ways, those capacities have been lost forever. Outsourcing costs the federal government over $10 billion a year. It touches virtually every department and agency, and it's largely responsible for the pay problems suffered by members due to the adoption of the Phoenix pay system. While outsourcing has grown, training and development have greatly declined, worsening the conditions for our members, their prospects for future advancement, and ultimately the services that Canadians rely on. The Liberals implicitly acknowledged outsourcing to be a problem when they promised in the last election to reduce spending on outside contractors to 2005-06 levels. But at the rate they're currently reducing such spending, it'll take another 10 years to return to those levels, and even then the government will continue to waste. We must then advocate that the government reduce spending on outside contractors to 2005-06 levels within its current 4-year term. We must promote a culture of insourcing in federal hiring practices. And we have to ensure that Canada's public service professionals have the necessary training opportunities for the government's new priorities. 3, we need to preserve scientific integrity. Now that we got it, we can't give it up. Public policy that ignores or even suppresses clear, contradictory, and overwhelming scientific evidence is at best shaky policy, and at worst, clearly not in the public's interest. Upholding evidence-based decision-making involves more than promises. It involves adopting and enforcing policies that guarantee scientific integrity, including the right of scientists to speak, of course. That's why we continue to insist that scientific integrity provisions be included in collective agreements so that future governments can never again muzzle our scientists. In addition to this, further investments are needed to turn the page on Harper-era cuts and to restore federal science capacity. Canadians' health, safety, and the environment and the economy depend on it. We must then enshrine scientific integrity into collective agreements. We must promote the hiring of more federal scientists to reverse the impact of the damaging cuts. And we need to advocate for investments in innovation and pure science at the federal level to make Canada a true global innovation leader. Number 4, promoting tax fairness. We like tax fairness, don't we? We all pay our fair share, so it's important everybody else does. Paying for public programs requires everyone to pay their fair share of taxes. It's estimated that lost revenue from tax havens alone amounts to $7.8 billion, and that's close to $199 billion of corporate Canadian money that's now sitting in offshore tax havens. While new investments in the CRA announced in the budget in 2016 are projected to yield $12 in revenue for every $1 spent, there's still a $600 million gap between the government's current capacity to collect taxes and what was available just 5 years ago. The government can do much better. We must then ensure that the government establish a world-class tax fairness initiative by investing $600 million that will return $6 billion in government revenue. Wouldn't that go a long way to help the government meet its priorities and pay us well? We have to encourage more targeted investigation and prosecution of corporate tax cheats. And we need to advocate for replenishing the staff levels in regional CRA offices. Number 5, we need to defend pensions, as always. Preserving defined benefit pensions is vital, not only to our members, but to all working Canadians who deserve to look forward to a secure retirement. The erosion of defined benefit pension plans in Canada has become all too common in recent years. With legislation tabled weeks ago that compromises defined benefit pensions in other sectors, we need to ensure that such plans never emerge for federal public sector pensions. We must then protect members' defined benefit pension plans. We must oppose efforts that would allow employers to shift to targeted benefit pension plans as proposed under Bill C-27, an act to amend the Pension Benefit Standards Act. And we have to join campaigns to advocate for wider adoption of the defined benefit pension model in both the public and private sectors. Public interest bargaining is here to stay. If we're to continue to represent our members effectively, we need to program for success. La clé du succès réside dans les investissements stratégiques dont nous avons besoin maintenant pour continuer d'offrir nos services et de les améliorer. Il faut donc investir non seulement dans les services que nos membres s'attendent à recevoir de l'Institut, de solides capacités de négociation, une représentation efficace, d'excellentes analyses juridiques et une défense juridique de premier ordre, mais aussi investir dans des relations plus efficaces avec le gouvernement, dans le lobbying, la mobilisation, la recherche rigoureuse d'informations et des communications convaincantes. Ce sont ces choses qui nous ont aidés à passer au travers une période vraiment très difficile de notre histoire. Et nous avons besoin d'encore plus maintenant pour assurer notre réussite future. The rules of the game have changed, and we need to catch up. The Harper years taught us a tough lesson. To protect our members' jobs and our livelihood, we need to be strategic, mobilized, and influential, not just during, but between elections and between rounds of collective bargaining. Through our work in research, communications, lobbying, mobilization, we need to win the hearts and minds of Canadians and their MPs long before we get to the negotiations table. Only that way can we ensure that the value of the professional public jobs is recognized and protected. If we learned anything from the recent elections in the United States, it's that we can never take anything for granted. One of the most influential members of Trump's team, Newt Gingrich, I'm pausing for boos, but they're not coming, okay, has been pushing for an ongoing war with US federal employees. He'll try to influence Trump to end civil service permanent employment. His wish is that we, the public sector unions, would just come unglued. And make no mistake, these words and these actions will embolden those in Canada who want to undermine our jobs and our livelihood. This is no time to lower our guard. We've accomplished a lot. We've not only survived the Harper years, we've thrived in the face of adversity and put our members' issues front and center in the media. We helped defeat the Harper government. We made scientific integrity an election issue. In a post-election survey of Canadians, 1 in 4 voters indicated that muzzling federal scientists was the worst thing that Harper did during his 9 years in government. And you can bet that they went to the polls on it. The courage of our scientists, the group that serves only to ensure the well-being of the public, cannot go unrecognized. We influenced Prime Minister Trudeau's election platform, and we got results from the government's first budget. We've become a trusted voice on professionalism in the public service. We're in the news on every issue that matters to public service professionals. We've led highly successful mobilization campaigns. We're being strategic and smart at the negotiations table. And we've put ourselves in a position to finish this round of bargaining under a liberal government, not a conservative one. Internationally, we're being touted as trailblazers for putting scientific integrity on the bargaining table. But we've got much more to do. We need to invest in areas that have been long ignored. We're building our digital and technological foundation with the investment we made in informatics. Now we need to make the investment that we've long needed in strategic communications. And I challenge any one of you to counter that we don't need to invest in communications. We need to improve our internal communications, mobilization, and engagement with members. We need to have a cross-Canada presence in the media. Our highly successful government relations efforts need sustainable funding and investment. That's how we can train our members for lobbying, organize lobbying events, track progress, and replace the salaries of members who volunteer for these activities. And we need to replenish our funds for the challenges that lie ahead. We paid for our election efforts from our reserves. That kind of work needs its own funding. We need to make the investments today so that the next round of negotiations, we will be the strongest we've ever been. It's been my honor to continue serving you as president of the Professional Institute. I look forward to discussing the Institute's plans further with you over the coming 2 days and throughout the next year. I wish to thank my fellow board members, elected group and regional officials, stewards, volunteers, and PIPSC staff for their dedication and service to our members. We are and will always remain better together. Thank you. Merci.